Do you want to do the intro?
Sure. What episode? 13?
15.
15?
Yeah.
When the fuck did we get to 15?
I don't know.
I could have sworn the last episode we did was like 11 or 12.
It's 14.
The fuck am I high? Was I high half of the time? Don't even remember these fucking episodes. 15, okay.
Okay, we're streaming now. Okay.
Don't do the countdown. God damn it. Do I do it now? We're good. Welcome to episode 15 of Cooperators. Fuck, 15? Jesus Christ. I was talking to Chuck and Dice earlier. I can't believe we're at episode 15 of Cooperators. I don't even remember episode 12 through 13 or 14.
I don't remember them either. We do them so infrequently. I'm sorry. I got the little loading here. Well, let's put the thumbnail up.
I feel like I'm freaking Matthew Perry when he's talking about how he couldn't remember filming certain seasons of Friends because he was so hopped up on
on diet pills, was it?
I think it was liquor and like painkillers.
Liquor and painkillers.
Yeah, I don't know. That's how I feel right now. Well,
okay.
Whatever. Welcome to episode 15 of Cooperators. Today we are talking about Chuck and Dice.
Homeopathic remedies. Let me bring the graphic up. So homeopathic remedies are all natural remedies that people use to, circumvent illness, possibly, I don't know, I guess colds
Maladies.
and flus and allergies.
Any kind of malady.
Yeah, and they're made out of like natural ingredients. Yeah.
Usually like extracts and
herbs.
Herbs, yeah.
Yeah, made out of flowers.
Would you say marijuana is a homeopathic?
No, because in my opinion, homeopathic remedies don't work, and marijuana actually works.
That is true.
Yeah. So homeopathic remedies, they don't work. Fight me.
Someone's gonna actually fight you.
Fight me.
They're gonna rub their knuckles with homeopathic medicine and punch you in the face.
Right, and like they will still get beaten because it won't help them. I swear to God, fight me. All right, let's move on.
All right, we got a lot of show today.
Speaking of placebos.
Placebos.
Yep.
You mean inhaler placebos?
Inhaler placebos. So does anyone remember it? It?
It all floats. Everything floats.
Everything floats down here. It's a book made or created by Stephen King. And then they turned into a television movie.
Yeah.
It starred Tim Curry.
Which
and
is fucking awesome. And creepy as shit.
Yeah. Now, admittedly, this came out in the 90s. It's a television movie. It's as scary as it can be for a television movie. I still think it's good because of Tim Curry and like how he portrays the antagonist, it or Pennywise Clown, this sort of weird supernatural force that feeds off of fear. And like some people, I don't know if you get this too, but like people just automatically say, I don't like Stephen King's It because clowns aren't scary. I'm not sure if that's the purpose of that movie or that film. Is that I don't think it's because clowns aren't, I don't think it's about like scary clowns. I think it's more about like how much fear is underneath the surface of something. For example, he's a clown and he's supposed to extrude that he's an entertaining little funny character, but in reality, he's gonna rip your arms off.
He will rip your arms off.
He will rip your arms off. Very similar to like just like the main theme of the book and this television movie, where it's about a town that kind of ignores all the actual scary things and like denies that anything bad is happening. Like children are dying left and right. No one knows why. But it doesn't seem that anyone really cares. Except
kind of like Nightmare on Elm Street, right?
Yeah, in a very similar way, like Nightmare on Elm Street, where like the children are dying. And like no one seems to care, and like they don't want to believe like the dangers that are out there, Yeah.
Kind
of like how homeopathic remedies are used. They deny things that are real.
And the reason why we're talking about it and homeopathic remedies is the new trailer, or the trailer for the remake of It has actually just been released, and so many people have watched this.
Yeah,
a lot. I watched it.
What
did you think of it?
I'm kind of interested. I mean, it does look like a very typical, like, Hollywood trailer, but I kind of like the concept of how they're taking on the subject matter from what I've read. So the original It was kind of presented it starts in sort of like the present day, like I guess back then there was like 1988, 1990, whatever, and then it kind of like flashbacks to the past around the late 50s. And like the idea is that they're reflecting back to their childhood, and I believe the book's formatted very similarly. They're reflecting back to childhood of how they were younger and how they like took on this supernatural being, this clown called Pennywise. Whereas in this instance, this is going to just be a movie that's a period piece that is their first encounter with Pennywise clown. I think that's really interesting because they're not gonna. The sequel is actually, if this movie makes enough money and if it's popular enough and people are interested in it, they're gonna make a sequel that's just about the adults. So I don't know if they've actually casted the adults yet.
They're splitting it.
Yeah, they're splitting it.
Oh,
so this is it, the first story, and then the second story will be about the adults. I don't know how much of how far they're in the second film yet. I don't know if they're waiting until they get a return in this first film. I think it's a pretty good idea.
You think they're gonna take a page from Stranger Things and?
Yeah, I think they are because that's what's really popular right now, and I think this is. I mean, when I watch Stranger Things, the one thing that I thought, besides reminds me of like a Steven Spielberg kind of thing, is that this reminds me of it. Exactly. We're just gonna have some low output streaming issues. I'm recording this, so if it fails, I can just upload the entire thing. So don't worry about it, people who are experiencing some low output right now and some stuttering. It's probably all the people who are mad at me
for
homeopathic remedies and how I deny that they work, because they can only believe in lies. You got that? Fight me.
You're just angry because you don't live your life a quarter mile at a time, just like I do. Moving on.
Oh, look at that. The stream's back.
Moving on.
Exactly. Look at that. They all ran away. Moving on.
Moving on. What else we got?
Well, you wanted to talk about something. This, something a little bit more realistic than homeopathic remedies. It's a little game. I love little independent game called Mass Effect Andromeda.
I wouldn't say it's independent.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah. So the review I got today is Mass Effect Andromeda, newest game in the Mass Effect series. This is actually this has nothing to do with the main trilogy. This is actually a side story. This Mass Effect game is actually.
So does this take place after the trilogy, or
no? This actually takes place. I believe this takes place right after the. I think during the time of the first Mass Effect game, or even maybe even after the first Mass Effect game. Actually, no. This actually takes place during the first Mass Effect game because they don't find out about the Reapers. So the story with this Mass Effect is during the first game.
Yeah.
I don't remember what fucking year. I think it's like 2078. They essentially realize that now that they have interstellar faster than light travel, FTL, they decide that they're going to send an initiative by a private billionaire in that world. Decides that they're going to actually colonize the neighboring galaxy of Andromeda.
Because of inflation, is the billionaire just a guy with a couple of bucks?
It's actually a woman.
Oh.
But she ends up drumming up support.
It is a fantasy.
Yeah. There goes all their other viewers. Just remember.
I'm just kidding.
Just remember, it's April Fool's too.
It's April Fool's too.
So a private. What would you say? Not a privateer, a private company, private.
Yeah, I guess an independent contractor.
Essentially like an independent contractor. They decide that they're going to colonize the Andromeda galaxy.
Right.
And they're going to try to create a bridge or
space bridge kind of thing.
Space bridge kind of, essentially a relay to go from the Milky Way to the Andromeda, because they know that they want to see what's out there. Yeah. So the
very Star Trek.
Yeah. So the game starts off as you're actually the child of a infamous military commander. Commander is Alec Ryder. He is actually part of the N7 class of military personnel.
Right.
If that sounds familiar, Commander Shepard from the Mass Effect trilogy was also N7. That's the highest military decoration in the Mass Effect games. So your character is an N7 character. N7. Your character is a child of the N7 commander, and the start of the game is they have these arcs. There's giant generation ships of people in cryogenically
Cryogenic
freeze pods.
kind of like a alien.
Yeah. So they have these giant arcs, and each species has their own arc. So you have the Turian arc, you have the Solarian, the Asari, and the whole point of this is to send all these arcs into the Andromeda galaxy and start populating these golden worlds. Golden worlds being worlds that are suitable for habitat. God, I can't even fucking speak today. Sorry. Golden worlds are essentially worlds that are suitable for life to flourish in habitat.
So they're gonna send all these
colonize.
all these like races of species out.
Yeah, and that's
to just go have sex on planets and have kids.
Pretty much, they're doing like Columbus did to to the New World. So that's essentially what it is. They're sending people into the Andromeda galaxy to colonize.
Right.
The thing is, when you get to the Andromeda galaxy, you realize that shit has hit the fan. Some of the arcs are lost. Your arc in particular ends up hitting like a dark energy field that damages it. So you're woken up from cryo sleep, and you realize that
kind of like The Passengers.
Yeah, like The Passengers.
A movie I have not seen.
I do not. I read about The Passengers, and my wife watched it, and yeah, it's fucking horrible. You end up waking up from cryo sleep, and that's where the game starts. Is you wake up from cryo sleep, and your whole mission as the Pathfinder, which you eventually become, is to lead people onto these various golden worlds and set up colonies and populate and have space sex. And essentially set up civilization. I haven't played too much of this game. I haven't gotten too deep into the story, but I have done a few planets.
Yeah. Is this exclusive to PlayStation?
No, this is actually this is on multiple platforms. It's on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and the PC.
Yeah.
So when you start off, when you get to the starting planet, your job is to set up. You realize that these planets, and this kind of into spoiler territory a bit. So if you don't want to listen to any of this, don't just pause right now or fast forward.
But when it's a live stream, so.
God damn it! Well, then don't listen to us for the next 20 minutes or something. I don't know. Whatever, 15 minutes.
No one's gonna mind about
spoilers,
that.
and then I'll say end spoilers. When you start off, you end up going to the starting planet, and you realize that these planets that the initiative had originally looked up and done research on, and that were considered golden planets. The reason why they're not golden planets anymore is because of a certain kind of race of aliens that you're going up against. And that starts unraveling the entire mission and essentially the rest of the game. What's cool is actually the design of everything. The first planet I started off in, you realize that there's this giant undersurface, underground kind of. It's kind of like a terraforming machine, similar to like in Total Recall.
Yeah.
This is this giant terraforming machine. There's plant life and stuff underground, and you realize the reason why all this shit's so screwed up is that this other species of aliens, hostile aliens, they actually might have had a hand in it, and these terraforming machines that can support life might have been turned off or been sabotaged. So you start unraveling this mystery, and you kind of go into this lull, just like any other Mass Effect. You kind of fall into this lull of you go from planet to planet doing missions. The main mission being you have to go from planet to planet, turn on these giant arc pillars, and this leads you to the main bunker. And when you go to the main bunker, that's when you fight your way to turn on the terraforming.
Right.
That and turning on the terraforming machine makes the planet suitable for colonization. It's really nice. I actually really enjoy the story because it's nice that there's a lot of optimism in it, which is, everyone has left loved ones behind, and they've left because they want to be the first in this new galaxy. They want to set up for
You know,
future generations.
In some ways, it reminds me of like the plot of the upcoming movie Alien Covenant, which is pretty much what that's
Yeah,
about.
and that's very similar to it.
Yeah.
But of course, shit hits the fan. You start finding hostile aliens, things like that, like Alien Covenant. The great thing about the this game though is the combat has been updated quite a bit. It's a lot faster.
Right.
You actually have jump jets, and essentially, which means you can dash. You're kind of like using this jetpack to dash around, either forward, backward, or side to side. So your movement's a lot faster. You can also combine your powers, like do combos.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the classes, the powers I'm using right now, I'm actually more of a biotic person right now, which means that you have space magic. One of the powers I have is
You're a space wizard.
Space wizard.
All
One
right.
of the powers I have is essentially force pull,
Right.
but I also have force push because they're both separate powers. So for the pull, you can either pull. If you tap the button, it kind of pulls him towards you a bit and kind of holds him into place. But if you hold it, it brings them towards you. So you can do a few things like if you bring somebody towards you, you can pull them towards you, and then you can just stab them in the face with your melee.
Right.
Or if, let's say, you just tap it and you hold them into place, you can use your push to push them away and knock, you give them a telekinesis blast away from you. And that does extra damage because that's a combo.
It reminds me of Knights of the Old Republic, which I guess BioWare also worked on.
Yeah, they also worked on. So they have a lot of these little combos you can do. They also have combos for tech, so you can light somebody on fire, and the way that's set up is that certain powers are considered primers. So
Right.
when you prime somebody, so you prime up, you initiate a combo. So like I was saying, right now something like singularity, which is it holds somebody in place as they float around. That's a primer, and then a detonator would be something like shockwave, where you send a shockwave of explosions. So you hold somebody in place, and then you send a shockwave, and it blows them away. And so it's really fun when you start using the powers and you start using the jetpacks, because you're dashing around the arena or you're dashing around places. You're trying to dodge enemy fire,
Right.
and you start using these powers. It can get a little crazier too when you start combining different classes. So like you can go cloak and have a sniper rifle and like
hide in the
hide
hills.
somewhere
Yeah.
and snipe. And the good thing about the cloak is as soon as you take that initial shot with your cloak, you do this massive energy
Massive
damage.
effect of energy.
Of energy.
Yeah.
You actually do this massive damage.
Right.
Damage multiplier. That the powers are really fun in this. And what they also did was, and this is a departure from the original trilogy, is that you're no longer stuck in a specific class.
Right.
Every single ability in the game is completely open. So the only thing you need is just to have the ability points to unlock it.
So it's more like, because I didn't actually play the original Mass Effect games. I mean, I watched other people play it. I couldn't play it originally because I think it was originally just on Xbox at one point.
Yeah, it was on the Xbox 360.
Yeah.
It came out on PC, but I think it came out on PC a little bit later.
Yeah, and then it finally came in on PlayStation.
The PC version actually vastly... If you ever do see it on PC, I would suggest play it because...
I actually own it, so...
the music is incredible. It reminds me... Actually, a lot of the music in the first Mass Effect game is probably some of the best music I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great because a lot of it reminds me of Terminator, of the first Terminator.
Oh yeah.
It kind of has that heavy synthesis. But then there's also really nice pieces later on because there's actually two composers for the first game.
Right.
That's really great. And what's great is like you played Knights of the Old Republic, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know how
both of them. Yeah.
Okay,
a
so
lot.
you know how Knights of the Republic you either had Jedi powers or Sith powers. You couldn't do
both. Yeah.
You couldn't mix and match, or if you did, you got heavily penalized.
Yeah.
And the Mass Effect game, they don't do that. They open every single power to you. So the only thing you need is the ability points to unlock it. And so, yeah, the combat's really improved. I also really enjoying... some people don't really a lot of people gave Mass Effect shit for the dialogue tree before, mainly because sometimes what your reaction was the option that you selected in the dialogue sometimes didn't match what it actually said.
Oh, I think I like kind of like in L.A. Noire when like they have like 3 different responses,
Yeah.
and you're like kind of looking for a neutral response, but for whatever reason the guy goes, "You listen, you little piece of shit.
Yeah.
You tell me what you know,
Yeah,
or I'll fucking kill you."
And you thought like, didn't I pick neutral? on
Yeah,
this
didn't
one?
I
Or,
pick
like,
neutral? Like that's not neutral.
So there's not really too much of that. I think they actually improved. Again, a lot of this is based off of what they did with Dragon Age Inquisition.
Right.
So they improved some of the dialogue with this. Right now, I'm actually really enjoying the dialogue. I haven't found too many issues of things not sounding correctly. It's a little more vague. It's not as clear and cut as this is the good dialogue option, this is the bad one,
Right.
this is like the neutral one. It's more of a this is a professional option.
Mm-hmm.
This is a more kind of like emotional,
Like
kind of charismatic option. This is a kind of logical
mm-hmm.
thing you would say. So it's not really good or bad or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's actually I actually really like that.
Now-
The interaction you have with your and actually the cast of characters you meet on this game actually are really fun. I think they're more realized and better fleshed out, but are also more believable. You don't have the gruff, silent male protagonist. You don't have the the hard, hardened fucking man-hating warrior woman.
Right.
You actually have these kind of believable, relaxed, kind of like
So they're like the non-homeopathic characters.
yeah, non-homeopathic characters. They're not extreme characters. They're very complex. And they have their own powers. The one thing they did do is they kind of stripped away a little bit of what your control of your other characters are. Your other allies control them. They use their powers on their own, but I've noticed that the AI has actually been really good on how it utilizes their abilities compared to what you're doing. So sometimes when I put something in stasis, when I have something in singularity and I have it frozen, you'll see my ally just do a biotic charge and hit them like really hard. And I was like, oh, that's really cool that they did that instead of, oh, I'm going to go up to them and start trying to punch, try to melee them.
I think that's one of my least favorite things about the AI in Resident Evil. Was it 5? Was with Shiva?
Yeah, Shiva was really horrible.
Yeah, she would I played that. I was told that that game's a lot more fun if you play it with multiple a co-op mode.
If you play with somebody another human, it's fun. But if you play
AI,
it
she'll shoot a telephone pole and run out of ammo and have to run there, give her ammo, turn around, zombies kill her or whatever.
and
Las Plagas kill her.
And so the AI is not. It's actually pretty good in this. The partner AI is pretty good in this, which is good because you don't get to really control the other characters. You can direct them where you want them. You can direct their fire, but you can't really tell them, I need you to use this power, I need you to do this power, which is kind of it's actually a step back from the original trilogy, but I personally don't mind it.
Right. Kind of gives it a different feel. It feels like a story. It's
it feels like a story.
If they have their own personality and they act their own way, it's not like they're like a robot. Like I don't know if you played the Final Fantasy Adventure on Game Boy. Like if you ever got that was more of an action RPG thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you got an ally, all the ally would do was just randomly shoot different directions, and you just had to be lucky that he or she happened to shoot at the right direction that you needed to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was an AI back then, just shooting randomly.
Yeah, this is not the case.
Yeah.
So I'm actually really enjoying this game. Now the cons on this game. The animation, one of the big things that's been talked about is the animations, the facial animations especially, which I understand why there's a huge uproar for these games where people get really invested in their character and the story and the way things play out. It's sad to kind of see these facial animations are actually quite stiff.
Do they have that dead weird stare of
they don't have the dead
stare,
but they kind of have these weird kind of twitches, or they're not. And this is especially true this is mainly for the stuff that's not scripted. This is for the random conversations you have with NPCs or your characters that are not having to do with the main story. They have kind of these weird kind of facial twitches, or they sometimes have these weird smiles. I've noticed my character will have this weird kind of grin sometimes. It's really off-putting a bit.
Having a serious conversation about diplomatic relations,
they have this weird.
and then you just start grinning.
Their mouth just looks weird.
Yeah.
a lot of people are giving the developers flack over this because they say that it's lazy, that they couldn't nail down these facial animations. But you also gotta understand this is a massive game.
Right.
Like, and there's so many people who work on this, and there's so many there's so many things behind the scenes that you gotta deal with, and there's so many interactions you can have. It's hard to plan for all this.
It's not an MMORPG.
No,
right?
it's not. It's not. So I'm okay with it. I mean, especially me coming from a video game. I've been in the video game industry in development.
Yeah.
So I give them more flack. I actually give them a lot of slack.
Yeah.
And I actually applaud them for their answer. One of the lead animators, he said that they, because there's so many variables, they can't plan for everything. So a lot of the smaller interactions in the game, they had to use an algorithm to figure out the best animation in it. Another thing that this game has, there's a few issues, technical issues, but also graphical issues and like audio issues, like small little things. Like there's sometimes a little bit of pop, like just audio issues. Like you'll hear things cut out a little bit, or you'll see a character, you'll see an NPC. Like when I first started playing, I saw an NPC on a box in the background, just walking around in a circle.
I've seen homeless people do that. That's nothing.
I mean, this game really is not very polished.
Right.
So this probably could have used a few more months of more polish.
Yeah.
And sometimes the controls can be a little bit janky. And what I mean by janky is they can be a little not responsive enough, but more like unwieldy, where especially because a lot of your movement has to deal with the jetpack, you're dashing and you're climbing up. Sometimes you'll kind of overshoot or undershoot, or it's not very precise at times. But overall, I still recommend this game for anybody who likes these kind of like massive space operas.
Right.
And also for those who
I can't believe I haven't played any of the Mass Effect games because they seem to like be the game that I should be playing.
I think you would really enjoy them. I would think people would enjoy this because I think the character interaction's a lot better in this one.
Right.
And the characters seem a lot more well written than previous before.
Going back to your people like making criticisms about like the animation glitches and like the slight audio problems or whatever. I don't know how bad they are, but like for me, like I was into games when it was like the 8-bit era. I mean, even before that, I owned an Atari and played like Donkey Kong, the home version. And like as time goes on, I kind of get more amazed about how like games have improved from like when I started like playing them to what they are now. I mean, they're like, even the worst game now is probably 100 times better than like in terms of like hardware and stuff to the Atari game I played, Combat, which is I actually kind of didn't like playing as a kid, but everyone else liked playing it.
I think when it comes to the current generation of games, it's kind of a two-way street. One way is that you're sold these really powerful, advanced consoles that are going to put out are supposed to output these great, massive, realistic, graphic intensive games that are supposed to just blow you away. But the flip side of that is that takes a lot of time and manpower to do. Right. Like this is not just something that just happens. This is not something like you can't really attribute something like this, like something that's unpolished, to something as simple as, oh, the developers are lazy, or they're no talent hacks, or they didn't give a fuck. They don't care about us, the consumers. Like, no, there's a lot of moving parts. I mean, again, it's one of those things where, similar to how we've talked about before, people who badmouth, waiters and restaurant servers, you can obviously tell they've never been in a service industry, because you realize that there's so much shit that goes on behind the scenes that you can't really control. It's the same thing with the video game industry. Yeah. And I think I mean, this is just me being an old man on a soapbox yelling at a cloud, but I think a lot of the more current generation of gamers feel like everything has to be perfect or damn near perfect because they're paying so much money, but also because of the internet, they have so much more direct contact with
they have a megaphone, basically.
They have a megaphone, essentially. So I mean, it's hard. I mean, this is something you can debate for a long time. Right. And I like the perspective that people like me and you have, who grew up with older generation consoles, but also the current ones, is you can kind of see where we were and where we're heading, but also that it takes a massive amount of effort.
Right.
Like,
A mass effective effort,
exactly.
to coin a phrase.
Exactly. So, and I mean, there's also that criticism in film. I mean, I'm sure
Oh yeah.
there's
Yeah.
people who are like, oh, that CGI looks like shit. But
Well,
it's
it's yeah. I've had this conversation with someone. Like, it's a two-way streak right now. They either say the CGI looks shit, or they look at an older film that looks really fake. And like in both instances, there are a lot of people working on that. In both industries, when they were out, the visual effects back in the day, they had like matte painters, they had people working with miniatures, stop motion effects, and then people easily say that, oh, that looks fake, and then like in a movie they're like, that CG looks fake. It's like, oh, I mean, and you could argue both sides, that there are movies like that are bad because they probably don't have as good effects or whatever. And it's obviously low budget, and there's always a Sharknado, or there was always like a Roger Corman film back in the day. But then they'll watch something like, I don't know, Indiana Jones or whatever. It's a perfect example for both types of films, and just kind of criticize to all hell. And if that's the only thing that's really annoying them, it's like, well, I mean, do you know how many people who work on a movie in VisFX that are really underpaid?
Yeah.
They don't have a union, and I actually learned this through what's her name, Thought Otter, Tiny Dinosaurs' wife. She works in VFX, and she had this video out on Facebook. It's about this 20-minute video called Hollywood's Ultimate Magic Trick, and it talks about how people are influenced by those older films and get into VisFX. And when they do get into VisFX, they're like paid a very minimal amount. They get burnt out, but they don't care because they can get some other young person or some other eager person to work there. There was an interview in there that like had this like a woman from Mexico. She worked in VisFX in Mexico, and like she had like kids, and she was like taking care of these kids. As a single mother working in the VisFX industry, and then she got the call like, "Oh, we're moving you to the like the U.S. wants you, and like we'll hire you." She thought that was actually a saving grace because she was being so underpaid for all the work that she was doing in VisFX. When she got into the U.S. and got her work visa and all that other stuff squared away, she found out that she was not paying. She was basically being paid a very similar amount.
Yeah, because
and same workload.
She might have been getting paid more, but also the cost of living went up.
Yeah.
I mean, so many factors. It's the same thing with the video game industry.
Yeah.
You have these developers who like grew up with these really great games like Metal Gear Solid, or like even like the original Zelda, or stuff like all those great games back in the day in the NES days. Or they grow up, they want to be these game developers. They become game developers. The same thing. There's no union for game development.
Yeah.
They get underpaid. There's always crunch time, which means they're working like 18-hour days every day for sometimes 6 months straight. They don't get a bonus when the game releases, and Metacritic's like, oh, this is a great fucking game. We're gonna give it a 90%. They don't get a bonus.
Yeah, in most cases it's like, okay, the game's done. You're all fired.
Yeah, you're all fired. I mean, I worked in QA, and it was the same thing. Like, QA gets a lot of shit as well. I think a lot of the shit goes to QA because they're like, oh, you guys didn't find these bugs. You guys didn't do your job and testing this. It's like, no, you understand there's so many moving parts. But on top of the moving parts, everyone has a boss. And every boss has to prioritize issues.
Yeah. You probably found that bug, but they said, well, we'll ignore it for now and fix it later because that's not important.
The last AAA game I worked on, when it released, the person at Kotaku who reviewed it ran into a bug that I actually found in the game.
Right.
And it wasn't prioritized because it wasn't a bug that had a common it wasn't something that you would encounter frequently.
Right.
So they deprioritized it, and it was just funny to see it come out in an actual review. So in this
it's like, I told you so.
Yeah, and it's things like that. I mean, there's so many moving parts, but I just think honestly it just comes down to, I think at the end of the day, it just comes down to people just not thinking about the actual human cost of these things.
Yeah, and I think like when a person says like, when they don't like a game, that's fine. You can say that. There's plenty of like titles I've gotten that I just didn't really like as much. But I'm not going to like berate the designers or anything like that. It's probably something they tried to do and just like it didn't work out. I'm similar to like, I I do feel that in some sense in the theater, there's no incentive to make a good movie because it's always overproduced by producers, and like they do have a director. Like, say for example, recently there's a rumor going out that the Akira film they're shopping for a director, and then they want to get Jordan Peele, who did Get Out. I don't know Jordan Peele's like if he has an interest in anime. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Maybe he showed that interest to the studio. It's just weird to me to choose that director. I'm not saying he's a bad director, but like he made this very like small movie seem pretty big, giving him like a license like Akira, which is not anything similar to Get Out, is weird because I'm not sure if that would work out.
It's a huge gamble.
Yeah, it's a huge gamble.
And again, we're not trying to take anything away from Jordan Peele.
Yeah, he's a great director. It's just like I guess it's really up to him if he wants to do that kind of thing. And like it reminds me of like how they just the DC franchise was just given to Zack Snyder,
or like Fantastic Four to Josh Trank.
Yeah,
he made Chronicle, which is great.
Yeah, but he made Fantastic Four, which was abysmal, and it looked like a film that had problems.
Yeah, and it probably wasn't even again. It might have not even been a director. It might have just been studio interference. I mean, there's everything's a lot more complicated.
Yeah.
I mean, entertainment nowadays is just so much more complicated. So you can't really attribute things like this to one person or so.
Well, it's like the person was lazy. I'm like, well, was it lazy or was his hands like cuffed to a brick or to a boulder?
Yeah. I mean, they had that same problem with Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Josh Trank even said like he's like the studio just
they didn't care.
They wanted to go what they wanted to go. I mean, it's
and like you can't. If like the people who are putting the money into it want to go a certain direction, there's very few things that you can do.
Yeah.
The only thing like really to prevent that is that you get into bed with a studio who just really cares about the product. For example, the Marvel franchises, maybe with the exception of Iron Fist. But have you checked out Netflix Live?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have. This just came out yesterday, and I just kind of found it on accident. But Netflix Live is what was the guy's name?
It's just Will Arnett commenting on like
just mundane things,
mundane appliances.
Yeah,
like the one with the burrito. I was watching the
burrito,
the microwave burrito.
Yeah, 3.5 minutes. That's good. Yeah.
It's pretty great. It's funny, and it's not something you're gonna laugh out loud from it. It's just you're just gonna like this is like the stupidest shit.
Oh
ever.
well, if you watch the one where he's like watching a person try to parallel park.
Oh really? Oh god, I gotta watch that.
That's actually the one that I like just. That made me laugh out loud just because he had like a lot of comments about this person trying to parallel park. Watch.
That sounds like me commenting on my wife trying to parallel park.
Yeah, there's a portion where like the person like just like backs up really far, and then like he's like, yeah, okay, go ahead, do that. Yeah, get a running start.
Okay, we gotta watch this after the stream.
Yeah.
All right. So I would say if you enjoy the Mass Effect trilogy or you just want something where it has a lot of character to it.
Can I get into it without being into the?
Yes. Okay. Yes, you can definitely get into this. You don't need any. It's one of those things where if you did play the previous games, you'll appreciate this game a bit more, but it's not necessary.
Okay. That's a good thing because like I have not played any of the games and they look very appealing. They just didn't come on the console that I had.
And the
at
good
the
thing
time.
is, the good thing is I've noticed video games nowadays they're starting to really introduce these difficulties that are, they're starting to introduce these difficulties where they want you to focus. You know, if you're not very good at combat, they will set the difficulty low. So they have these low difficulty where it says you just want to see what the story is. You don't really care about
the casual
combat.
play.
Yeah, the casual combat. So you know you won't take as much damage. You'll do a bit more damage. So yeah, I would say check it out. I recommend this game actually quite a bit.
So moving on to like sequel games here.
And sequel games.
Science fiction sequel games. You wanted to talk a little bit about Destiny 2, which hasn't come out yet?
No, it has not come out. Destiny 2 was revealed recently. I'm just going to quickly talk about this because there's not really much to talk about. Destiny 2, sequel to Destiny, the really big, huge game that a lot of people played for a very long time, as I did. This is a sequel. It's coming out actually at the end of this year, September, towards the fall.
It just seemed like we were just talking about Destiny.
Yeah, so Destiny 2 just was announced. They actually had a really great reveal trailer.
Mm-hmm.
They had a teaser trailer which starred Nathan Fillion as Cade 6. Cade 6 is a character in the game in Destiny 1. He's kind of like the main quest giver for hunters for one of the classes, and the writing for his character has always been great. The thing with Destiny 1 is it kind of started off kind of story-wise, it wasn't very interesting, and it was actually kind of disjointed. But subsequent expansions, especially the later ones, they kind of improved the story a bit, especially the Taken King.
Right.
That expansion had a lot of Cade 6 in it, Nathan Fillion's character, and his writing was great. It was like top-notch. It was very, 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 very reminiscent of Firefly and just anything comedic that he's done.
Castle.
Like Castle, or actually similar,
Really?
also kind of like Castle, but I would say also like Dr. Horrible's sing-along.
Oh, yeah, the Doctor. Yeah.
Like, how Nathan Field is kind of a little arrogant, and he was kind of like, it was funny, but he was also kind of a dick. That's kind of how his writing was a bit. I mean, it was great. It was really great. So they really improved it with the subsequent expansions. So with Destiny 2, they had a teaser trailer which starts off with Nathan Fillion talking about how he's relating to a bartender, how he defended the last city, which is the setting in Destiny 1. And then a couple days later, they actually did the full-blown, sequel reveal trailer, which is actually, it's funny. It's Commander Zavala, which is another character in the game. He's voiced by Lance Reddick.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah.
And then, so they're both and it's also Nathan Fillion. They're both kind of giving the same speech. They're trying to kind of inspire these people to fight back, because I guess the premise for Destiny 2 is that the last city, which is the main city you were based in Destiny 1, gets invaded by one of the enemy factions. It's called the Cabal. They get invaded and they blow everything up. And this kind of aligns with Bungie's plan, which is Destiny 2 is a complete reset of everything. Nothing's going to carry over except your character's appearance. You're not going to carry over any weapons. You're not going to carry anything over from Destiny 1. A lot of people were pissed off because this is something when Destiny 1 came out, this is something that Bungie talked about, that they had a 10-year plan for this franchise. So people were kind of peeved, but they're incorporating that into the story, which is the home base that you were in Destiny 1 gets invaded and blown to shit. So now you got to go to other planets and gather more gear and loot, and you get new abilities. So this is a complete clean slate, and it's if you have time, go ahead and check out the trailer. It's really great because they have Commander Zavala, who's more serious and a more like typical inspirational speech, and they kind of intersplice it with Cade 6's speech, which is more humorous and kind of deadpan, a little more selfish. But it's great. It's actually a really good trailer. A lot of people are excited. There's gonna be a beta pretty soon. I think they're shooting for summer, and then there's gonna be an open beta probably a few months later, just right before the release, which is in September. A lot of people are looking forward to this. They're interested to see what new things they're gonna do with the franchise. One of the big things that they're hoping that they continue or hoping that they fix is the story, because the story in the original one wasn't all that great. A lot of the backstory that you wanted to know or that could have filled in the blanks was relegated to this to the Grimoire cards, which was essentially like this database of text that you could only access through an app.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, it wasn't something you can access in the game. Like, you had to go into either Bungie's website.
Right. You can read this, but you need this app.
Yeah. Or, on their website. So they're hoping that they continue that kind of fleshed out dialogue and character they had from Taken King. Right. And the trailer kind of shows it. So a lot of people are hoping that the tone that they had in the trailer is going to be carried over into the game.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to this. I wasn't on the hype train, but now I am because of Frank Espada, who, if you remember from our old days, he got me into this. He is definitely excited for this as well. So I blame him for getting me on this hype train. Like,
it's kind of cool when you share that bit of information about how the characters lose all their gear.
Yeah.
I've talked to Tiny Dinosaurs about this in sort of a tabletop sense. Is one of the most fun things that I like to do, and like he likes to do as well. He's done it far more than I have. Is like when we play a tabletop game, you know, like a guy will create a character that can destroy things like with his mind. Oh, okay. So just to let you know, we're being joined by Dragon City players, who's actually my niece. How's it going? Just to let you know.
They call you Uncle Bumblebee?
Yeah, I don't know why.
I'm gonna start referring to you that on our podcast now instead of chucking dice.
There's Uncle Bumblebee.
Yes.
Dragon City players, why do you call me Uncle Bumblebee? I don't know why. Anyway, she says yay, and she's putting a bunch of emoticons. Okay, watch your language.
Okay.
So we're talking about video games, Dragon City players.
Can we bleep it out?
No, it's all live.
Do we have a bleep?
I mean, I have to open something and play it right as you're.
Okay, I'll watch my language.
Just
I'll just act like I'm at my in-laws for Christmas, where I have to watch my language.
I said watch your. Okay. Okay, Dragon City players says I like pandas, bees, dogs, a pig. Yay! All right. Have you played Destiny 2? She hasn't. It's not out yet. So one of the things that like we always did when someone like created a character that could like destroy things with like a blink of an eye, we would actually take away that thing.
How annoyed or angry was that player when they found that out?
Oh, she doesn't know why she calls me Uncle Bumblebee.
Just keep it up. Keep doing it.
Okay.
There's no reason. It doesn't matter why. Just keep doing it.
So they did get really annoyed. I mean, it's like here's the thing. Like when a player comes in and creates a character in their little RPG and the little table, their godlike character, and they start bragging about it, and like that's the one thing they want to do is like
you gotta knock them down a couple pegs.
Yeah,
man.
you have to knock them down a couple pegs and say, okay, now all of a sudden you lost that ability.
Because it doesn't make like I mean I know we talked about this before. It doesn't make it fun for anybody.
No, it doesn't. Like if you want to like make a game where like you just go out and like kill people in like a blink of an eye, then okay, you can do that on your own time. You can actually say it in your head and say, this is my story.
Or like I know you were telling me a story once where you guys were playing. There was a guy who did his super special, which took forever.
Yeah, it's basically
he had to count all the damage modifiers.
He had to roll dice to see how many dice he had to roll for damage, and then roll those damage dice. And there's all these little dumb calculations that they have to do, and it was really boring. It was the most boring thing ever.
It was like watching the summons animations for Final Fantasy 7 and 8.
Right. I don't know. Smiley face. So that's kind of a cool thing where they said, okay, you're back in the wild. I think they did something very similar in Metroid games.
Yeah,
where Samus
that was the Metroid.
loses,
That was the thing with Metroid was every single Metroid game except for Metroid Other M, which I still hate to this day because of the reason.
Right.
They always knocked you down a peg because you're like, oh, you don't have all your abilities anymore. Metroid Other M went the misogynistic route and said, you can't use all your abilities because a man is telling you not to.
Well, that seems about right to me, right?
Inappropriate. Is this the example you want to set?
Let's see what she's saying right now. Apple, green apple, strawberry,
hamburger,
French fries, lemon, ice cream, chocolate bar.
No,
what is with people? What is with you kids and your emoticons? And oh wait, she says yummy. Okay, that makes more sense.
Maybe they're hungry.
Maybe they are hungry.
I'm hungry.
I kind of am hungry. We're gonna go to Vicious Dog after this. Okay, so
all right, moving on.
Moving on from Destiny. Sorry, 1 second. My headphones are like giving me grief here.
Actually, what are we moving on to? What's the next thing we're talking about?
I'm going to talk about a little bit about Thimbleweed Park.
Thimbleweed Park.
Yeah.
I've heard about that game, but I don't remember hearing too much about it. I have no frame of reference.
Okay, so Thimbleweed Park. Let me get the graphic up here. Thimbleweed Park is I think it's developed by Ron Gilbert. He's one of the writers and a bunch of other people. This is a sort of an independent game. Ron Gilbert, of course, is one of the original designers of Maniac Mansion, and it uses the Scum engine. If you guys ever played Maniac Mansion, it's a game about a mansion, about these kids who have to go into this mansion and save this guy. the main character's Dave's girlfriend Sandy. Dragon City Player says, "What is destiny?" Just rewind the stream, and just
They say they're crazy.
I crazy, yay!
I think we
poop emoticon.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll talk about Destiny later. Actually, we already talked about Destiny. We're talking about Thimbleweed Park. Actually, we're talking about Maniac Mansion. Son of a gun. So in Maniac Mansion, you're these group of kids. It's a very 80s, type setting. You have to go save your girlfriend from this mad scientist, and you can pick these different characters. You could pick other than the main character Dave, who's like the all-around, typical 80s protagonist boyfriend. You can pick a musician. Like I always picked Razor, who's this female rocker chick, and in the Nintendo version of the game, the home version of the game, she's she actually has this really rockin' tune. The Nintendo version of the game of Maniac Mansion is really unique because every time you pick a different character, a different type of theme is being played. And you can turn it off because they have this thing in their inventory called the CD player, which is playing it. So if you switch to the nerd, it plays something very similar to Revenge of the Nerds kind of theme. If you switch to the surfer dude or the author, it just has themes that are according to that character. It's something that the Nintendo version had in Maniac Mansion that the other versions, like the computer version, didn't have. But getting back to it, Thimbleweed Park is developed by the same developer, and he's using the same engine that he used before. Dragon City Player says Dog Park and says, "I want to live in the mansion." You don't want to live into that mansion. That mansion is haunted. So Thimbleweed Park starts with a murder. It's very Twin Peaks-esque, and it has these two agents that are very X-Files investigating this murder. It's got throwback graphic styles, which I enjoy throwback graphic retro graphics and such. I mean the animation's a little bit more slicker. It moves a lot crisper than the old days, but a lot of the commands that are the same. You click on different types of verbs, and then you can click on subsequent objects. They shortcut some stuff, just if you just want to look at an item, you can just right-click it. It does kind of hold your hand in the beginning because there is a tutorial, and there's two ways to play. I think this goes with what you're saying about video games nowadays. There's a casual play, and then there's a really hard puzzle-solving way of playing. Big House. So my niece right now, Dragon City Players, is saying Big House is mansion, yay, aw. Probably because it's haunted. You can live in a haunted mansion. I don't know why kids these days.
You can. It's cheaper.
It's cheaper, yeah. So in Thimbleweed Park, you're going around investigating this murder with these two characters that you can switch off of. There's Agent Reyes, who's pictured here on the left, and Agent Ray. So Reyes and Ray, who's pictured on the right, and kind of looks like, they sort of look like Mulder and Scully. I guess Reyes is Latino, and, Ray is a white chick. The game is really self-aware, and it's very, I guess, parody of all the stuff that they're showing. It's parody Twin Peaks. It's parody X-Files. It even has a throwback to Maniac Mansion. Some of the characters from Maniac Mansion is actually in Thimbleweed Park. So it's, in all intents and purposes, it should actually really interest me, but for whatever reason, I'm not really digging the game so far. I don't know if it's sort of the intentional parodying itself and self-referencing itself is getting to me.
Is it the dialogue itself?
I think it's
writing?
the dialogue a little bit and some of the voice work. I'm so used to playing current day adventure games where the voice work is incredibly good, and even though it's sort of these dated graphics, it for some reason works. Also, to the fact of that is that when it's about something very serious, say about murder or whatever, it takes it very seriously. I mean, there's games
the tone matches it.
The tone matches it and such. So maybe I'm just kind of saturated with like those kind of, or those kind of games that I'm expecting that all adventure games to be like that. I guess I have played a couple of like I guess you would say humorous adventure games, like for example Deponia. But that kind of adventure game is more appropriate to its tone. It's not a parody of itself. I mean, it's still self-aware, but it's not a parody of like genre in general. So Dragon City Player says, I like food. I do like food as well. And she also says, Minecraft is fun, yay, and then says money.
I tried playing Minecraft,
Right.
and I think I need help in that. I think with Minecraft, I think I need a little more direction. Unlike Tumbleweed.
Tumbleweed? Yeah.
Yeah,
Tumbleweed will direct you wherever you want to go.
that's my kind of game.
Yeah. The only really part I'm enjoying about Tumbleweed is there was this little, cameo scene of Thimbleweed, actually. Thimbleweed part.
Thimbleweed, sorry.
Is this cameo scenes of Dave and Sandy. You find out what happened to them. They own a diner. And like
Who are Dave and Sandy?
they're from the characters from Maniac Mansion.
Oh.
And they actually do have some funny dialogue. But the other character that I really liked was Ransom the Clown. And I think that this is where this game should have started. It shouldn't have started with those agents. It should have started with Ransom the Clown as this like flashback. Because that's how it was introduced as a flashback. Ransom the Clown is actually funny. He has really funny dialogue. He curses, but it's all bleeped out. So when you click on something like like a picture of his nose or whatever, like he'll say, "That's my bleeping clown nose," and then like he'll just he'll berate you if you click on random things after a while. There's a part where you can push a guy on stilts to the ground, and the guy on the ground will just start yelling at you. Now, granted, the loop is a little too basic because he's like saying the same thing over and over again. I think what they should have done is like they should have just had him say it once and not have him say it over and over and over again. That's actually what the problem with this game is, that there's background characters that'll say a loop of dialogue and it doesn't stop. I mean, it would be best if it just did it once and then maybe you click on that person again and it says something else. But it's like this one loop of dialogue. There's these two characters dressed as pigeons and like they would not shut up. I was just like, please stay quiet. Let's see what Dragon City Players has to say.
Criminal case?
I like a criminal case game, but
it
was scary at night. Clown is scary. Oh, he cursed. Actually, he is cursed.
What's the
you watched that video, didn't you?
What's the criminal case game?
Well, yeah.
Was that Resonant? No, were you playing? You were.
I was playing Resonance.
Or
yeah.
Gabriel Knight.
Gabriel Knight as well. She was watching at night. How late were you up? I was playing those like at midnight.
Oh, someone's in trouble.
Someone's in trouble. I'm going to tell your dad. But criminal case, games are scary, I guess. Yeah. Gabriel Knight.
I thought they might have been talking about something like Outlast.
Outlast?
Because that's pretty That's pretty scary.
That's pretty scary, yeah. Don't look up Outlast.
Do not look up
Dragon
Outlast.
City Players, do not look up Outlast. It's a very scary game.
Also, don't look up Heavy Rain either.
Don't look up Heavy Rain. She's going to look all this stuff up.
They're saying that they like King Quest.
Oh, you like King Quest?
Yeah.
Oh, that game was good. I like King Quest. It's a Sierra game. I played the new one. It took me like 7 episodes to play that thing, but it was very fun. I'm more of a Space Quest fan myself, but the King Quest actually had dialogue, like spoken dialogue.
They have King Quest and they have Space Quest. I'm going to make one called Normal Quest.
Normal Quest?
Where it's just
Isn't it just Stanley Parable?
Yeah, probably.
Just walking around.
We should totally make an adventure game of a day in our lives.
Right.
Like just like us going to work and then coming home. My game would probably be nothing but me sighing all the time. Just heavily sighing. I get home, kids say hi, I sigh heavily. I get to work, I sigh heavily.
Al Bundy, the game.
Yeah, basically that's what my. It's funny. I was thinking about this the other day. I've essentially become Al Bundy.
Right.
I'm married to a redhead who stays at home. I have 2 kids.
In reality, she's a beautician as well.
And I want to just be in the bathroom all the time.
Yeah. I watch Stampy Longnose play it. Okay, we got a request for Stampy Longnose, so I'm gonna give that to you, Augmented Biscuits. You're gonna play Stampy.
What's Stampy Longnose?
I don't know. Here, let me look it up. Okay.
It's probably Stanley Parable.
Okay.
They just said that they're arresting the clown.
We are arresting the clown. Okay, that's Stampy Longnose? Oh, look at that. It is a game.
They like sour things.
Cooperators is canceled. Stampy Longnose was the first YouTube channel made by Joseph Garrett. It has a
Joseph Goldsev?
Garrett.
Oh. It's a channel.
It's a channel. It's not a game. Yeah, watch Stampy Longnose play it. Maybe it is a game. Is it a game?
No, there's
Silly Billy. Don't say.
the channel. The channel, I think, is Stampy Longnose.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'll check that out later.
Have you finished Thimbleweed Park?
I have not played Thimbleweed Park. I kind of got up to the ransom the clown part, and then I went back to the present day. I mean, I only played an hour of it.
Okay.
And most of that was me just like at a water fountain. Like you can go to a water fountain and it has no purpose in the game, but you can drink water, but you can like pick different types of like gulping noises. So I just stayed there for about like 15 to 20 minutes just drinking water with each of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was funny. But like the rest of the game I was like kind of half into it. I think it's basically that maybe I'm not just into the plot, and the plot just didn't happen until you were Ransom the Clown. And you ransom the clown, you say all these insults because you're like an insult comic, and like you insult a mystic person in the like a gypsy or whatever in the crowd, and she curses you. Basically, you can't take your makeup off, and that actually was interesting because it was pretty interesting. I mean, a murder happened at the beginning of the game, but I couldn't care less about it because I didn't know what it was about. But with Ransom the Clown, at least something was happening with him. I watched him play the game. Play what game? Oh, probably this game. I'm better than Ransom the Clown or Stampy Longnose. I don't know who I'm talking about. Okay, do you want to transition here?
Yeah, should we move on to WrestleMania?
Okay, so if you guys don't know,
I don't know.
You don't know. Tomorrow is WrestleMania. It's the 33rd WrestleMania. It's also been dubbed the Ultimate Thrill Ride.
Why is it the Ultimate Thrill Ride?
I don't know. It's like roller coaster themed. It's kind of really silly, but it's going to be taking place in Orlando, where I actually used to live in Orlando at one point. I went to film school there, a little place called Full Sail, where they actually shoot WWE NXT after I went to school there, which is so annoying. So there's a bunch of matches tomorrow, wrestling matches. We're going to talk about a little wrestling. So like I don't know, we can talk about the card here.
What's the big match? I guess that's what I'm more interested in.
Okay, so the big matches, like I think one of the big matches is obviously John Cena is in there.
I guess your niece is like John Cena.
Okay, we'll talk about John Cena. You can't see him; he's invisible. John Cena and Nikki Bella, which they're boyfriend-girlfriend, going against The Miz and Maurice, who are husband and wife.
We're talking about The Miz from the real world?
The Miz from the real world. He became a pro wrestler. He's been a pro wrestler for over a decade now.
Yeah, I heard he's actually really good.
He's actually really good. At first, when he started, I think he was trying to find his character. He wasn't the most interesting character out, in the WWE at the time. But as time progressed, he's actually improved his characters. He actually has excellent mic skills. He's actually an excellent competitor. And he's one of the few wrestlers that hasn't had like 9,000 injuries. A lot of people say, well, he's a cautious wrestler. I think he wrestles the way he wrestles because he wants to have longevity. He doesn't want to have a time where he's just he doesn't want to have a time where he's like not wrestling for like 5-6 months.
Yeah. Which is smart. I mean, as much as people give him flack for, or that might be a little boring.
Yeah.
Still, it's maybe that's why he makes it up. Maybe he makes it up with his mic skills.
He definitely makes it up with his mic skills.
Okay.
You're correct. That's what wrestlers do. If they want to kind of like maybe save their bodies for like the big matches and not like go hard with their wrestling moves in like the matches that are on like SmackDown or Raw, which are the normal television shows. If they do that, they won't get as injured as much. And
Does
if
he,
they have mic skills, they can make up the fact they can fill up that time with their mic skills.
Has he had any like really really good like hard matches or matches that were like really just
Yeah,
you can tell were intense, like physically intense?
Yes, he's wrestled this guy named Daniel Bryan, who is a great wrestler, and he's like a daredevil. He doesn't have like mic skills, but definitely has charisma. He has what's it. I am Leonardo da Vinci. No, you're not. It's a lie, like homeopathic remedies.
What do you have against homeopathic remedies?
Lies.
That's true.
So he had this really great match with Daniel Bryan, a very good rivalry, and it was actually a very enjoyable pay-per-view. I think it was a SummerSlam that they battled in. And since then, he's actually been having like the career of his life this past year. He's had wrestles with Dean Ambrose. He had matches with Dean Ambrose. He's gone this ongoing feud with John Cena. And this WrestleMania, they're going to have like basically this sort of like couples match. So when a guy gets tagged in, the guys have to fight each other. When the girls get tagged in, they have to fight each other. Now a lot of people might think maybe that's a little I am John Cena, booyah. That's not what he says. He says you can't see me. When they have these matches, they want the woman to fight the woman and the guy to fight the guy because WrestleMania supports a women's like abuse group. So like a guy, like a 250-pound muscle-bound guy punching a woman in the face is probably not the type of image they want to, show on television. It's kind of like one of their holdovers from being, PG for the longest time. But, that's just, that's what you have to do to make all the supporters happy. If you want to watch intergender like fights, you can watch Lucha Underground. They do a great job of it. Lucha Underground's more fantasy based, where the WWE is more, athletically, more into realism, and also they have to censor themselves sometimes because they can't do like matches where people go through 5 tables into some thumbtacks, and everything's on fire. So they're going to have this match. They had these great vignettes between The Miz and John Cena. The Miz does this impersonation of John Cena where he's talking like a robot and talking about all his house rules because it's kind of like a parody of what how he was acting in the reality show called Total Bellas, which is about John Cena and Nikki Bella and Nikki's sister, Brie, and her husband Daniel Bryan. Maurice was doing both Nikki and Brie, and acting basically like sort of like they're kind of like bubbly and and a bit airheadish. She was putting it to the nth degree. I mean, they're smart women, but she was putting it to the nth degree, and one of the things that they do that happens in Total Bellas is that they'll give like this sort of be on the verge of crying. So Maurice does this like parody version of her cry face where she's like she has like this frown coming up and tears. She's on the verge of tears or whatever. And they do this really great impersonation of them. And then it suddenly stops and they look at the camera and they get dead on serious and how the Miz has been around wrestling and he's not a part-timer and we've been here for so long, busting our butts to grow the business. Well, John Cena takes vacations and does reality shows and stuff like that, and only comes back when it's WrestleMania or SummerSlam. Then John Cena comes back and just cuts this extremely just hard hitting promo about how Maurice just suddenly comes back and is now in the top of the card for no reason at all. Talks about Miz and how he's kind of just jealous of what John's achieved throughout the time, because John Cena is I would say he's deserved the spotlight for a while. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't. He's not my favorite wrestler, but I think he actually did work hard to get where he was, and deserves that kind of attention and spotlight when it comes to WrestleMania. So when you get to this point where like they're throwing these great promos, because John Cena did throw a promo. I would say I would only have pictured The Rock to have like said. It gives you excited for this match. I don't know who's going to win. I mean, honestly, I don't really care. If John Cena wins, okay. He's John Cena. He's the superhero. You got to have the superhero win sometimes. But if The Miz wins, would be excited too. I was like, okay, they're going to give The Miz the push now. He's going to be the top guy.
I want Chris Jericho to run in and just win.
Well, it's very interesting that you say about Chris Jericho, because Chris Jericho is going to have a heck of a match against this guy named Kevin Owens. Everyone knows, if they don't know Y2J is Chris Jericho. He's been around since the 90s. He's a great wrestler. Every time he comes into wrestling, he'll like, go away for a while to try something different and then come back. And hi, Uncle Bumblebee friend. She says hi to you.
Oh, hi.
He comes back as like this, like he just changes his character so much. In this iteration, he's got the list of Jericho. Mm-hmm. So basically, if you wrong him, he puts you on his list.
What does he do when you're on the list, though?
Well, he basically says like, it's like you're going, you're his enemy, and you've wronged me, and now I'm going to put you on the list, and I'm going to get back to you, and I'm going to get back to each of these people on the list. So if you said like he was dumb, he's like, you just called me dumb. You know what happens? You know what happens when you call me dumb? You just made the list. And like the weird thing about it is that it was this dumb thing in the beginning, and like people were just like at first maybe booing it a little, but then every time he delivered it and every time he was doing it, it just got more and more funny. It's like, what'd you call me, you stupid idiot? You just made the list, and he would write it down, and like people would just wait for him to say that. He like made this new catchphrase out of like doing something very hilarious and like farcical, that it became more popular than the Universal Heavyweight Champion, which is the Raw Championship. He made it more popular than the top belt, because people just wanted to see the list and less of the belt. So he's going against Kevin Owens, and they had this entire year of being the best friends. They were the bad guys, basically, but they were the best friends. Like Jericho would come in and like distract the guy, and Kevin Owens would come in and just cheat and like get the 1, 2, 3. So recently, Kevin Owens wrestled Bill Goldberg. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows Bill Goldberg. He's that huge guy.
Not Gilbert?
Not Gilbert. He's like the original article, Goldberg. Idiot. Yeah. Dumb lollipop, yum. Okay. Oh, God.
I love this. I love this. It puts you off your A game checking dice.
It does.
Uncle Bumblebee.
So he loses the championship, and it's because he recently betrayed Jericho, because Jericho put him in that match with Goldberg. And so Jericho basically interrupted the match, and the match ended in like 3 seconds. Mm-hmm. It was a terrible match, but that fueled their rivalry in WrestleMania, and I'm going to go say it on the line that they're going to have the best match on the entire card, because that's the one. Kevin Owens is great. I knew Kevin Owens in an independent wrestling independent wrestling circuit here, called PWG, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. And both me and Tiny Dinosaurs went to this show, and we saw him. Kevin Owens does not look like an athlete. He's basically overweight. And we were just like,
sounds like my kind of wrestler.
Yeah. We saw him. We saw him come out, and we were like, who's this guy? And like people were like, cheering him, like, Kevin. It was Kevin Steen back then. Kevin Steen. And like he came in and like he just mopped the floor. He looked amazing. He was doing like flips. He was doing all these like hard-hitting moves. There's a portion where like a bunch of us in the crowd couldn't see, so because like people were standing up, and it was like a small American Legion hall, and like we were actually chanting, "We can't see, we can't see." And then all of a sudden, Kevin Owens goes on the top rope, and he looks at us like, "Oh, you can't see? Huh? Why did you pay for the front row then?" Because the front row would like cost a little bit more, and like it had us laughing and stuff, because that was actually a pretty good rib. Stampy Longnose is a kid-friendly channel. I'm gonna beat up Stampy Longnose later. So that's going to actually be a really interesting match, because that's going to be the most exciting match probably on that entire roster, on that entire card. I mean, that has me the most interested, at least. The other matches is Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg, which I'm not really looking forward to.
God, I I hate that they keep bringing those guys out every
Yeah.
so often, and
They're both part-timers.
I can't stand
Yeah.
I can't stand either of them. Like
Yeah, John Cena.
I can't stand either of those guys. Honestly, like they're so annoying.
I don't. Okay, what they did with Brock earlier, like maybe 3 or 4 years ago when he beat the Undertaker for his WrestleMania streak, I thought it was interesting because they were kind of billing him as this like unbeatable monster.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought what was going to happen was they're going to like build up one of the younger guys, and then he was going to beat Brock, and then that guy would be the top guy. They were gonna start elevating the talent that they had to make them a little bit more legendary. That didn't happen. Brock's still a monster, and then like when they brought Goldberg back this past year, he decided to have a match with Brock Lesnar in Survivor Series. So they go in the match, and like the big thing about Goldberg is that he had this like win streak as well. He had this win streak in WCW back in the late '90s, where he would just beat people in 2 seconds, like 2 minutes or whatever. The matches wouldn't be very long. Honestly, Goldberg is not one of those guys who can technically wrestle for more than 5 minutes because he gets gassed really easy, and he's really intense. And like earlier on, I kind of liked him, and then later on, I was learning that a lot of the stuff that he does is, a lot of people are just rolling down and saying, pin me, so they can collect the paycheck to make him look really strong, when in reality, he doesn't have that. I mean, like, he has a sort of an artificially built charisma. I don't know where he lives. I'll find where he lives. Stampy Long knows. So when Goldberg faced Brock in Survivor Series this past November, he beat him in like 2 minutes, and like everyone was shocked, and like, it was kind of cool. But then like they faced each other in the Royal Rumble in the big match where they throw people over the top rope, and he throws him out in like 2 seconds. Now another cool thing that happened in the Royal Rumble, he had a face off with Undertaker, but it's not like it lasted more than 2 minutes. Undertaker just threw him out. And then, Goldberg then had a match with Kevin Owens that lasted a minute, and he won the championship belt, the Universal title. And so, if you looked at it completely, he came back to wrestling and has wrestled a total amount of 3 minutes, all his appearances combined. So they're going to have a match with each other, and people are saying that Brock's going to win, and I think Brock's going to win as well. But I'm not looking forward to the match because I know that neither one can do a very long match because they don't wrestle as often as the rest of the card. At least some of them.
You're just saying he's just cheap fan service?
Yeah, it is a cheap fan service thing. They're gonna have a match, and I don't know if it's gonna be 3 minutes long. If it is, then I'm just gonna whatever. It wouldn't have been any better if it was 20 minutes long. If it's gonna be 20 minutes long, it's gonna be a total train wreck, because like I said, it's not like Goldberg has been wrestling in any of the televised shows. He just makes appearances to cut a promo every now and again, not every day, not every week. And they had a match before, in I think it was WrestleMania 20. It was terrible. It was the worst match ever. I remember watching that with my friends back in, and this is when I was living in Orlando. I think it was Madison Square Garden where they had the match, and I forgot where it was, but they had this match, and they were just shoving each other, and they were trying to display their power. And Stone Cold Steve Austin was the guest referee. Everyone was cheering Stone Cold because both wrestlers at the time were just going to leave WWE after that match. So they were saying, "You both sold out. This match, sucks." They're going the na 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 hey goodbye. They were singing that. It just wasn't a very good match. So I'm not really looking forward to it, but apparently maybe the average viewer is, since they're both names. Brock Lesnar obviously made a name of himself in MMA, and Goldberg made a name of himself in Santa's Sleigh, where he plays a killer Santa.
Really?
Yeah. Moving on, the other match that everyone's kind of looking forward to as well, on terms of the card, is Undertaker versus Roman Reigns. And a lot of people think this is Undertaker's last match. He's made some appearances here and there in the WWE. He was a participant in the Royal Rumble. He ended up, appearing in Raw and then ended up getting speared by Roman Reigns, which is sort of like a tackle. And then there was rumors that he went to the back and then he was just experiencing a lot of pain, which I wouldn't doubt because he's done a lot of crazy matches. If anyone remembers, he's had that really famous match in Hell in the Cell with Mick Foley. Arguably, Mick Foley took a lot of the damage. But Undertaker's been around. He's been around since, the 90s. Even before that, he was around in the 80s as well. Not as The Undertaker, but as Mean Mark Calloway. And he's battered his body. He's about in his mid to late 50s. He's not getting any younger.
Yeah, he's been around for a while.
Yeah. Santa is not evil. He is a good guy. You're going to hate what I did to him at Burning Man. So I feel that The Undertaker is in kind of physical danger when he's going into this match. I don't want to really say that because like everyone has that sort of mythical like impression of The Undertaker. And he is. He's got all the charisma. He's got it. He's been with the WWE for such a long time that he's become the icon of just wrestling, at least the WWE wrestling or WrestleMania. A lot of people might say it was Hogan or The Rock or Stone Cold. I think it's The Undertaker because he's regularly made appearances in wrestling and hasn't done a lot beyond that. I mean, I remember him in Poltergeist Legacy, that old television show in the 90s, and he's been in like Suburban Commando, but it's not like he like decided to transition to like movies and stuff like that. He actually would always come back to WWE and wrestle. But I feel that what we were talking earlier, that it's going to happen like in the movie The Wrestler. He's going to pull a Randy the Ram moment, and I hope that's not the case. And I hope he doesn't get so injured that like he loses the ability to walk or something like that. I wish he was wrestling someone a little bit more, I don't want to say safer, but a person who has more ring intuition, more experience. I don't know who that could have been. I think the more obvious choice would have been John Cena. That would have been a great match. Like the last match I felt Undertaker had was against CM Punk, who was like a smaller wrestler but had a lot of experience and made him look like, even though he was sort of slow and older, he made Undertaker look like he was superhuman because CM Punk, the art of wrestling also is not just, throwing punches that look like that you're the superhero, but also dropping as if like the other guy is like a menace as well. That's why I don't think Brock Lesnar and Goldberg is going to be good, because I think that those two guys only make themselves look good themselves, not other people. So when the Undertaker is facing Roman Reigns, he's a sort of a rookie. Mm-hmm. Then he's I don't know. He's I don't think it's going to be as good as what people think it is. And that's like the big one that everyone's looking forward to, I guess, besides Brock versus Goldberg. We have a question here. Dragon City Players says, what is your guys' favorite animal and food? Let's start with you.
I have one answer to both of those questions. Chicken. No.
You mean yard bird?
Yard bird. I don't know. Favorite animal?
Okay. Favorite animal, yeah.
Hawk.
Hawk?
Or a falcon.
Or falcon?
Any raptor birds.
Any raptor birds. Why is that? Just because
they're fucking... Sorry. Just because they're fungi. Just because they're giant birds with giant talons. And they have really cool looks. And they can fly. And they just look like giant death machines.
Okay. What's your favorite food?
I
guess besides yard bird.
Yard bird. Almond paste.
Almond paste? What is that? Like almond paste?
Just ground up almonds with like
butter?
No, it's just ground up almonds with like honey. Use it to make marzipan and stuff like that.
Oh. I don't think I've ever had marzipan. Is that good?
Yeah.
Oh. If you guys have ever had marzipan, please comment below. Actually, when this uploads, please comment. Or just put it in the chat. My favorite food?
Yard bird.
Yard bird, which is fried chicken. And my favorite animal? What is my favorite animal? Bichon Frise. It's like a small poodle-like dog, except smaller with stubbier legs. I used to own one. Dragon City Player says, I is in choir, and I did a show today. We sang Count on Me, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and Fight Song. Toothpaste made with almonds.
Marzipan?
Marzipan? Is that what it is?
No.
No. Okay. Okay. I think that brings us. I mean, like, other than other stuff about WrestleMania, they're gonna have AJ Styles versus Shane McMahon. I don't know if that's gonna be good or not. It's gonna make AJ look good, but he's fighting a non-wrestler. There's gonna be some women wrestling matches. I'm not too into that because the matches I've seen them already, so it doesn't seem as exciting as before, and they haven't built a good story to it. Bray Wyatt's going to fight Randy Orton, the RKO superstar. That's going to be for the championship belt. I love Bray Wyatt, and I hope he wins, but I'm not sure if it's going to be a great match. Dean Ambrose, one of my favorite wrestlers, is going to be fighting Baron Corbin for the Intercontinental Championship. I think that actually might be good. We'll just see. Sachi is a doggy. Sachi was my dog Monique's sister. So I think that does it for today. Just to let you know, this will be later uploaded at Podomatic. This is only the audio portion, so if you got the Podomatic app, you can actually download it and listen to it in your car, or your commute, or what have you, on the subway, anywhere. If you want to get into contact with us, you can follow us at our Twitter at IncogniateBro and at Chucking Dice. Share, subscribe, and always leave comments as soon as this video gets uploaded. You got anything else there?
No, that's it. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening, and thank you, Dragon City Players, for...
Sorry for the cursing.
for joining us and asking all the weird questions about
I
our...
said fudge. I say fudging.
Fudging, okay. So we'll see you next time. We don't know when we're gonna record next. We're gonna try and do a field trip. We'll figure it out.
Actually, yeah, I have some. I think I have thoughts on that field trip.
Okay.
I think that might happen soon.
Might happen soon. Okay, so we'll discuss that later, and hopefully we'll do a field trip somewhere.
To the corner store to get some.
Like what? Bread?
Chocolate milk.
Chocolate milk.
Yeah.
Why does it gotta be chocolate milk?
Or milk. Vitamin R.
Okay, thanks for joining us. Keep it rolling.